cap and trade gets a lot of people worked up on both sides of it, but the argument against it is, as you know, is that it's going to raise costs, essentially be a tax. I'm sure we'll talk about that in some detail. Why, Lester, is cap and trade in and of itself a good idea, do you think?
Well, the first question is, do you need to do something about global climate change? If the answer to that is yes, then some sort of market mechanism like cap and trade or a CO2 tax is the right way to do it. You have to get to the first question first. I'm one of the people who thinks that it is worthwhile, but other people can disagree with that. I don't think you can disagree with, if you want to do something about global climate change, then you either want a cap and trade system or you want a carbon tax.
Well, we look really hard, Lester, for somebody to disagree, and we found Patrick. So Patrick is here. The question that the professor brings up right there is, do you want to do something about quote-unquote global climate change? So he's right. I mean, you have to answer that first, yes or no, and then go from there.
Well, Connell, thanks for having me today. And, we have to look at this Waxman-Markey bill as nothing more than a tax. Whenever you want to whether it be cap and trade or a renewable electricity mandate, whenever you want to do to reduce CO2 emissions, that's going to cost money. That's going to cost small businesses. That's going to cost families. So if folks believe that the economic benefits of this legislation outweigh, if the science benefits outweigh the economic benefits, then yeah, what the professor said then is accurate.
But are you against it because you don't believe in the science of global warming, or are you against it because of the because of cap and trade as a strategy to fight that?
Well, Con, I'm not a climatologist or a scientist. We look at this from an economic perspective. This legislation is 1,500 pages in length. It regulates everything from where we can put electrical sockets on new buildings. It mandates a one-size-fits-all national building standards. And it has a renewable electricity mandate that is not only ambitious, it's practically impossible to meet. So you have to look at this from a few different angles, and we believe that the more the American people learn about this, as Rasmussen pointed out today in a poll, 67% of the American people say they're not willing to pay 1 penny more for their utility bills or energy costs to address global warming. Well, so it's a question that the American people... Go ahead, Tracy.
Patrick, you make a great point, and I put out enough money, fill my gas tank, I'm with you on that, but Lester, maybe the question or the problem is that we don't know enough about global warming. I mean, there's many of us out there still on the fence about this. Is it true? Is it happening? I will say that we've had like 15 straight days of rain here in the Northeast. It seems like Armageddon, but is there truth behind this global warming theory that we do need to address?
Well, the first thing is that there's no scientific disagreement that the presence of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere warm the Earth. If we didn't have greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, the Earth would be about 40 degrees cooler than it is right now. Those greenhouse gases are mostly water vapor, but we're putting in additional greenhouse gases in the form mostly of carbon dioxide, and there's no scientific disagreement that these additional greenhouse gases will warm the Earth. That's going to be a good thing in some places if you live near the North Pole or the South Pole. It's certainly going to be a bad thing if you live near the equator. But I don't think there's any scientific disagreement on that. Well, there is scientific disagreement about how much the Earth will warm and how fast.
Right.
And so we need to take account of that.
Well, here's the thing. There's been a lot of publicity has gone to these recent emails inside the EPA. I'm sure both of you guys have already heard about this. But, last night there was the person who had sent out these emails questioning the science behind global warming was actually in the studio, mind you, with Glenn Beck. And they talked about it. They showed the charts. Now, I'm like you were saying, we're not experts on this kind of stuff. This guy is. Lester, you are. He was saying, as carbon emissions are going up, you'd expect that the temperatures would be going up as well. And they showed the charts, and the temperatures actually had been going down. So his point is, hey, wait, what's going on here? What about the warming? It's not actually happening. Where is it happening, Lester? And what's the problem with, as you said, we have to look into this more, don't we? No?
Well, I think that you need to go back over a longer period of time. When people try and tell you that the heat tomorrow morning is due to global warming, that's a bunch of junk. We're talking about climate, not weather, and climate by definition is something that happens over years or decades. And so what's been going on is that since more than 100 years, the climate has been warming, some downturns in there, but the climate has been warming over a period of time. Whether it's been warming since yesterday morning or since last year, that's weather. That's not got to do with what the issue is. Clearly the climate has been warming. Clearly there is global climate change. How much of that is due to human actions, that's a different story. I think that most scientists believe that a large part of that is due to human actions. But there's still some doubt about how much of that is due to human action.